the Pooch Parenting Podcast, a podcast for parents with dogs. I'm Michelle Stern, a certified professional dog trainer, mom, and former teacher. Living with kids and dogs at the same time can feel like a circus. I know because I lived it too. Join us as we interview a variety of experts and parents to discuss topics that will make parenting with dogs easier, safer, and less chaotic. Also, you can love living with your dog again. I'll always keep it real, which might even mean that you hear the messiness of life in the background on occasion, but at least you know you're not alone. Adopting an infant is a life-changing event. And when it happens, suddenly there's little time to prepare, especially for your dog. If you're a parent bringing home a baby through adoption, you might be wondering, how will my dog react? What can I do right away to make this transition easier? Today on the Pooch Parenting Podcast, I am sharing the top 3 things you should do immediately to help your dog adjust to your growing family. Whether you've had months or just days to get ready, these steps will set the stage for a safe and smooth transition. I am really excited about today's episode because you may not know this about me, but one of my children was adopted from Guatemala. And while I had the luxury of time, it was a curse, actually, not a luxury, because the paperwork got held up and there were glitches. So I had more time than I wanted. But sometimes people don't have much time. And today's episode is inspired by a client of mine who I worked with at the very beginning of my business because she knew that when she got her dog that eventually someday she wanted to adopt a baby. Fast forward many years, they went through the process and reached out to me when they realized that they had to get in a car in just a couple days to go get their new infant. And they needed to know what to do. It kind of took them all by surprise and snuck up on them because life happened and suddenly they were in this new phase of life and the baby was on the way and they weren't really sure what to do. And so today's episode is devoted to this family. We literally had our consult while they were in the car driving to another state to go meet their infant. And then they had to be there for about 2 weeks while all of the paperwork got processed and finalized before they headed home. So they did not have the luxury of time to prepare in advance. So what I want to do in this brief episode is just outline some immediate steps that you can take, whether you've had lots of time or whether you're in a similar situation as her, where you're literally calling me from the car on your way to get a baby. So first, before we dive into the things you should actually do, I just want to make sure that you are aware of the fact that this is a big deal. It's a big deal for you. It's a big deal for your dog. Everything changes when you have a baby in the house. So you will have a different routine. You will have a different level of energy. Your dog will not get things to happen on the same routine that they used to. So for example, meal times, play times, exercise times may not happen on the same schedule that they used to, which can lead to confusion for the dog. And there may be some jealousy. The dog may be wondering why they're getting less attention than they used to and why you're all fussing over this little bundle and a blanket and why can't they be more included. So it's a really big deal. For dogs that tend to be sensitive or anxious, those dogs can have a really hard time as well with the sudden change in the family dynamics. Sometimes the added sounds of a newborn infant, which can be loud and long, can add triggers, add stress to that dog's life. And so we need to really just be aware of that, go in with an open heart and an open mind and know that we need to try to support our dog because safety is a really big deal. This is a really big deal, folks. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the very first thing you should do. What I did with my client when she called me from the car is I gave her a list of items that she needed to order online right away. For those of you who are seeing this video on YouTube, I have a pen behind me. And the pen is one of many items that can provide peace of mind and safety in your home when you have a dog and an infant. I sometimes use pens like these to literally just simply divide a room in half. So the dog has a safe place in the house. You and the baby have a safe place in the house, because you may not be sure how your dog is going to respond. Your dog might be just so full of love and exuberant energy that you don't want your baby to get bowled over when they're on the floor for tummy time, for example. But if your dog is reactive or has a bite history or has any number of other issues, then we also need that there for safety for other reasons as well. So in the show notes for this episode, you can get them on my website, poochparenting.net/episode 90. I have a shopping list, and I even have a guide called Dog Essentials for Your Baby Registry that you can go ahead and download. It's a free download, and you can even email the PDF to folks who love your dogs and want to buy presents. Maybe they don't love babies as much as they love dogs, or whatever. They want to just help you make sure this is a success. You can send them that, and that guide even has links within it that they can just click on it, and they can go purchase some of these items for you. These pens and gates and things of this nature provide safety so that you can have peace of mind. But we also really just need your dog to know that they have a safe place to go. Some sensitive dogs have a really hard time when babies start rolling around. If the baby gets too close to the dog who's resting, babies have an involuntary grab reflex. If the baby reaches close to the dog to grab the dog, grabs a fistful of fur or an ear or a tail, that can be really dangerous. Some dogs get very stressed about that close proximity when they don't feel that they have a way of opting out. And so I like creating safe zones for dogs and for babies. Now, if you have the luxury of time and you're not listening to this on your way to get your baby, I would work on helping your dog get used to being behind a barrier of some sort, whether it's a pen, whether it's a baby gate, whether it's a crate. I would caution you about crates. In many cases, I think people use crates too much. And a pen gives the dog a lot more freedom of movement. They can have a bed, they can have water, they can have lots of toys or chewies in there. It tends to be a more positive experience for many dogs. Crates can be great as well if it's just for nap time. If the dog is sleeping, it doesn't matter. I also recommend buying a bunch of chews. I'm not going to encourage you to hoard them, but kind of. I like when my clients have a nice, healthy stockpile of long-lasting natural treats and chews that they can work on when they're behind a barrier. It feels much less punishing to a dog when they have something fun to do when they're back there. Some of my favorites include bully sticks, which I sometimes buy at Costco. They're quite expensive. Collagen chews are nice. And one of my favorites that lasts a very long time, even with my dogs who are what I consider super chewers, my dogs can eat a bully stick in about 30 minutes. But I really love beef cheek rolls, and those are amazing. It's literally just the skin of a beef cheek, and they roll it up and dry it out. So there's no gross chemicals like there are in rawhide. Do not purchase things like that, please, for your dog. It's junk food that can cause intestinal blockages, and that's the last thing you need to cope with when you're raising a new baby, right? So get a bunch of these, and I have links, again, like I said, in the show notes, with some of my favorite treats and chews. You can also load up on meal enrichment toys, so things like snuffle mats or balls that my favorite is called the Omega Tricky Treat Ball, for example, or the Snoop, where you put food in there and the dog has to work to get it out. And I love this because it gives the dog the opportunity to have some nice mental stimulation while they're separated. It keeps them entertained. And these are things that sometimes when you're feeling guilty and you have a new baby, you're feeling like, oh gosh, my dog isn't getting the best of me. But if you give them something fun to do, then that can alleviate some of your guilt. So I think that that's really, really important. Your dog may need a new sleep location. If your dog is used to sleeping in your bed, that needs to change. And my client who called me from the road, her dad was home with the dogs, and they implemented a new sleep location immediately under his watch. I didn't want that new sleep location to happen once the baby came home, because I don't want the dog to make the association that they got kicked out of your bed because this creature showed up. I want as many positive associations with your baby as possible. And so making that change in advance is really helpful. The reason we want your dog out of your bed if your baby is sleeping in your room is that when you are all asleep, you are not supervising. You're unable to be aware of any interactions. And there have been some really horrible stories of dogs who jump into the bassinet or the crib in your room and smother the baby or harm the baby in another way. And that's not a risk that I'm willing to encourage you to take. So the dog can still sleep in your room if they're comfortable sleeping in a crate or if they're contained in a pen. Some of my clients will even put a pen around a bassinet if they're sure that that can keep the dog out. There's a lot of different ways that we can adjust your sleep routine, and I'm happy to help you do that if you work with me. So establishing safe spaces is absolutely crucial. It's one of the most important things I want everybody to do. Another thing that you can do pretty quickly, even if you're packing up to get ready for a road trip, is you can introduce some baby sounds to your dog. And you can do that on your phone. You can go on YouTube and play newborn baby sounds. They will not be the same sound as your baby makes, but how your dog reacts to those sounds is data. It's going to help you to see, is your dog excited? Does your dog act predatory? Is your dog ambivalent? That would be my goal. I would be really happy if your dog didn't care that there were baby sounds coming from your phone. You can introduce the sounds quietly at a far distance on the other side of the room. That's how I would begin, slowly making it louder or closer to the dog. And then if you do have the luxury of time, I would have you wear a baby carrier around the house with your phone playing baby sounds inside of it, because it is different when you are moving around and your body sounds like a crying baby, because that's really what it's going to look like at the end of the day. You're going to be carrying a crying baby a lot. And we want to see, how does your dog respond? Do they get aroused, excited, scared? Are they still able to listen to you if you ask them to lay down or if you ask them to go behind a baby gate? Can they still listen to you if your body is holding a noisy baby sound, This is all really good information. And if anything during this process frightens you or makes you nervous, please reach out to me, because you shouldn't have to do this alone. And I want to make sure that you are working with someone who is really savvy in the ins and outs of parenting, along with the ins and outs of dog behavior. It's really important that you're able to work with someone like me or somebody else that you trust who is very experienced with working with families who are raising children, because the level of stress that you experience is on a different level than a childless dog owner might experience in these similar types of circumstances. The other thing that I want you to consider, even though I'm saying the top 3 immediate steps you need to do to prepare your dog, this last one is more about preparing yourself for appropriate expectations for when you come home with the baby. First of all, do not do what Instagram videos demonstrate. They're dangerous and they're scary and they're irresponsible. Most of those people are wearing rose-colored glasses and they're just hoping for the best. And they're bringing the baby home, putting the infant seat on the floor, and the dogs rush over and put their face in there right next to the baby's head and sniff the baby and lick the baby. And that's dangerous. And there's no need for you to do that. So the first thing that I would like you to do is I would like you to greet your dog without the baby. So maybe the baby is still in the car and you get out and you see your dogs and you love them and you pet them and hug them. Because if you're like my client, she was gone for 2 weeks from her dogs and they were so excited to see her when she got home. And I don't want the baby to get caught in the crossfire of that enthusiasm. So first start like that. Just say hi to your dogs, love them. You miss them, I'm sure. Then when you come in the house with your baby, I would like the dogs to be on leash and or behind a barrier, because we're not sure how they're going to react. And I'm not willing to let you take a risk. So please, please, please have someone you trust, someone who's strong and knows how to handle your dogs. Put those dogs on a leash. And then we can assess the situation. How are they feeling? Are they looking at you? Are they staring at the baby? Does it feel safe? What does their energy look like? Are they loose and waggy, or are they stiff and nervous? Are they licking their lips or yawning or shaking off a lot to release stress? These things will inform your next steps. And I don't mind somebody walking the dog on a leash past you and the baby a few times. If the dog wants to lean over and sniff at the baby's feet, I would count to 3, 1, 2, 3, let's go, and keep moving the dog along. I don't want the dog obsessing over the baby. I don't want it to seem like a really big deal. And I know it is a big deal. It's like the biggest deal in the universe. It's the biggest thing ever. But I don't want you drawing so much attention to the baby. I took my students through some videos that we found, and there was one that was very stressful for me to watch, where the new parents were talking to their dog and saying, look at the baby, look at the baby. This is your new baby sister. Look at the baby, get close to the baby. And it was very, very stressful. You're putting so much pressure on your dog, and you're making your baby even more vulnerable than is necessary. So please just take a breath, chill out. They have a lifetime to get to know each other. So please keep that first meeting as calm as possible, as controlled as possible. Use leashes. If you need to use a muzzle, use barriers. And then the last thing that I think you can do, and you can do this if you're on a road trip on your way to get your baby, or if you have the luxury of time, is to start to study stress signals in dogs. Learn to read your dog. How is your dog feeling? Is your dog happy? Is your dog nervous? Are they going from relaxed to stressed quickly? Because we never want to punish our dog around the baby. We don't want to have a big emotional reaction to how our dog is feeling, where we're freaking out, because that's going to cause the dog to be even more worried about the baby. So if you can recognize signs of stress as quickly as possible, then you can prevent things from escalating. And I would just close out by encouraging you to really take this seriously. Do what you can with the limited amount of time you have. Do not just assume that your dog will adjust without support, because that's not something that's likely to happen. And try not to overwhelm your dog with too much too fast. I would encourage new adopted parents to join the Pooch Parenting Society, which is a supportive monthly membership. We have 2 Zooms a month. You can come. I'm there for you. We have a private Facebook community, and it's very, very affordable. We also have a searchable video library filled with resources for you. So I would encourage you to check that out at safekidsanddogs.com. I hope you found this episode helpful. I am so excited for you in this new chapter. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Pooch Parenting Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and leave a review. But even better yet, tell a friend. Are you in some moms groups, perhaps? Or maybe you're friendly with your pediatrician. Please let them know that resources like this exist, because the information that I share with my people goes beyond what most baby books offer, and a lot of parents need support. You'd be doing them a favor. Thanks again. Have a great day.